Hey everybody, Luke here with a pretty quick battle report for you. My buddy wanted to try a new high elf list, lots of shooting and some other units he's never really used much before, and so he had me roll up a 2,500 point list and complain until I finally decided, okay, we'll play. So we played this evening, and this is what we got. This is what the board is before we got deployed. We have a fungal forest, arcane ruins, the river that gives +3 initiative and is dangerous terrain, a mystery swamp, a sorcerer's portal right in the middle, haunted mansion, an idle morgue. And this is how I deployed here. I won the roll, but it's just a normal pitch battle. This is what my army looks like. I have a Terrorgeist. He's right where the base is. A Vargulf, another Terrorgeist. Spirit Host. Got Coven Throne with a Vampire BSB up there, who's a level 2 Lord Shadow. He's kitted out to be defensive and leadership debuffing. Then next to him is a Vampire Lord. He's a level 4. He's also a fairly decent combat Lord. I wanted him as a leadership 10 guy to work some synergy with the Coven Throne there. So he's got some Fear Bomb and leadership debuff stuff, and he's in the group of skeletons with the Screaming Banner. Then I've got a Bunker with a level 2 Necromancer in there. He has the Van Hell's book. Then I've got some Ghouls, 37 of them. I initially intended them to be in horde formation, but because I want to swing off to the right here, I didn't deploy them that way. Then I've got just a Spirit Host. My opponent has an Eagle, and then he's got a bunch of groups of, I think it's 14 archers. One of them, I think it's the one that looks like Swordmasters, has the Flaming Banner, but I'm not sure if that's accurate. Then he's got some Dragon Princes, 5 of them, and his general's in there, and general's kitted out to be just a destroyer. You know, strength 7, always strike first, obviously because he's an elf, but he's got a 1-up rerollable armor save, and just 6 stuff that's going to go away when the high elves get their new book. Repeater bolt thrower he has back there, another group of archers, then another group of archers with an not an archmage, just a level 2 mage with Lore of the High Magic, I believe. Then he's got a group of white lions in horde formation with his BSB in there, and his archmage. His archmage is level 4, Lore of Shadows, and he's totally immune to anything non-magical. So that's pretty awful. And then he has finally one more eagle. So I get the first turn and move up through the river. As you see here, I'm trying to go around that portal. So that's why everyone's kind of coming up here. My plan is to hit that white lion and mage group with everything I got, with 2 screamers, the Vargulf, the Coven Throne, all that stuff. I want to slam into it, get a bunch of points, and then hopefully start going down the line of his archers. Ignoring those Dragon Princes as much as I can. At least that's my plan. Spirit Host moves up as well. During Magic, it's 7 dice to 4. He shows he has a Nulian Crystal, so he takes one of my dice every phase, and it becomes a Dispel for him. I get Malkoth's off from the Cursed Book, and I reduce the ballistic skill of one of the archers. I use the Book of Archon to move the skeletons up through the river, and I end up losing 5 to dangerous terrain. The Sorcerer's Portal shoots the skeletons and gives them speed of light. We go into High Elf turn 1. The Eagle moves up towards my Beast. He's going to try to do redirecting and all that and get in the way. And his White Lions basically just scoot sideways. The Dragon Princes fail a charge and just basically stop right in the river. He doesn't lose any dangerous terrain though. The rest of the archers behind just kind of shimmy around for visibility. During Magic, it's 12 dice to 6 dice. He's got quite a significant lead on me. The Sorcerer's Portal casts Wisdom's Wild Form on the skeletons, and so that's pretty good. Melkoth's, he tries to cast it on my skeletons, and I end up letting that go. I wasn't too worried about it, and he only ended up reducing my movement by 1, but I was able to dispel Pit of Shades on the Terrorgeist. Didn't want him to go out in one cast. However, he irresistibly gets off the Withering, lowering my toughness by 3 on the Terrorgeist. And I think the irresistible force result was that 3 white lions ended up blowing up, and it ended the magic phase. During shooting, however, he kills a couple of ghouls and ends up landing 5 wounds on this newly debuffed Terrorgeist. There's a bolt thrower in the archer packs, just shot at him, and so he's in big trouble. Vampire turn 2. You can see here I basically run the Vargulf up through the woods. it ends up, this is where I find out that it's a stupidity forest, the fungal forest, so he's in big trouble because he's not close enough for rerolls currently, and he does not have the leadership bubble, so he's got a leadership before. He could be stuck there for a while, at least until he stumbles out of the forest. I move my unblemished Terrorgeist next to the eagle to scream it to death, and you can see the other Terrorgeist has run away. The Spirit Host moves up here. Actually, it ends up failing a charge on the Dragon Princes, and so ends up moving here. I didn't actually need that much either, but just rolled really poorly. And here you can see where the Terrorgeist ended up. He's going to try to go back here to get out of range of the shooting as much as he can, and still get a few heals off, if all goes well. This picture's a little late in the game, but you can see the skeletons have moved up. The throne has moved up. The Spirit Host moves up right in front of the White Lions. It can't charge, but it can get right up there, and so it gets right in their face. I move the ghouls. I kind of wheel them through the water in the swamp, end up losing a couple of the dangerous terrain, but my goal is to start putting some pressure on whatever happens on that left flank, because he's going to start to close in there. In Magic, it's 11 dice versus 7. Speed of Light gets cast on the skeletons from the Sorcerer's Portal, but again, that's not going to last long enough to do anything. Van Hell's from the book, I end up casting that, but it ends up being a huge mistake, and you'll see in the next couple pictures why. I didn't realize it at the time. Doom and Darkness goes off from the Curse book, but that gets dispelled. Winds of so you have to kind of imagine this here, because I Van Hell's the skeleton group up 8 inches closer to the White Lions, and what I'm able to do then is throw Winds of Undeath right through all 3 of those groups there at the top that have little explosions on them. It doesn't do too much damage. I had never cast it before. I couldn't actually get the big template off because I would clip my own guys, and as far as I know, based on the rules for shooting, that you can't start a template on your own guys. So I used the small one. It didn't really do that much. It killed a couple guys in every group, but I was hoping for more. I was kind of just enamored with casting it for the first time, but it ended up not doing too much for me. It did go off with Irresistible Force, and I ended up killing 6 skeletons with a backlash, which kind of sucked. During shooting, my Terrorgeist just vaporizes that eagle there on the right. And here's my big mistake. Having moved up so close here, the White Lions are able to just charge and join into a combat here and overrun right into my skeletons. I was thinking, you know what, my Vampire Lord's going to be great. I want him in combat, but now he's way out ahead of all the other support. And the High Elves jumped on that, and they made a joint charge here, or what will end up being a joint charge. They charge with the archers on the corner of the skeletons here, and then they're going to easily kill and overrun that Spirit Host and join that combat this turn. They also have magic attacks because of the banner. And I didn't know that, but it's not like the Spirit Host really would have lived anyway. It would have had to get really lucky there. So that's my big mistake here. He moves his eagle up right in front of my Coven Throne. The models can't really get close enough, but he's really close such that I have to engage him if I want to go forward. You'll just have to imagine it, I guess. The Dragon Princes make a charge on the Spirit Host, but end up losing 1 dangerous terrain, which is nice. The archers move close enough to get some shots on the debuff Terrorgeist, and they can reach him now after a little bit of shimmying. In Magic, it's 11 dice to 6. He's got a commanding lead. His banner ended up giving him 3 more, and he channeled. He tries casting Juiced Up Malkoths on the main combat on the right. I dispel that. I end up taking a fireball in the back of the skeletons from the Sorcerer's Portal. It finally decides to be mean instead of nice to me. He casts Vol's Unmaking on the skeleton unit, and that's the High Elf spell that will allow him to know all the magic items in my group and destroy one of them. And so I don't want that to go off at all, because obviously that's my big general there. So I was able to dispel that. Threw a bunch of dice at it. He gets off Enfeebling Foe on the skeleton unit and general's unit, so they're lowered their strength by 1. And then he ends up with his last few dice getting Drain Magic off. Now, if you're not familiar with High Elves, that one gives a +3 difficulty to all magic cast until the start of his next magic. So that's really going to suck for me. During shooting, he had a really bad shooting phase, and because of Van Hell's, I ended up in previous in the previous turns, I ended up healing the Terrorgeist. So the Terrorgeist wasn't 1 wound away from death, he was 2 now. And he landed 2 wounds on the Terrorgeist, but I regenerated both of them with 6s, so that was fantastic. Just an awful shooting phase for him. And here's the carnage from my mistake. It was awful. So he punked the Spirit Host like we thought, and he overran. And the Fear Bomb I had did not affect him because this was an overrun. He didn't have to roll for fear at the debuff and drop 1 and worry about the Screaming Banner because he had already rolled for the phase. So those White Lions get to come in having passed the just normal fear test without a debuff. So that sucked quite a bit because there's a whole bunch of points tied up in that. That's what I get for my mistake. He challenged with his BSB though, and I accepted with my general. And I ended up rolling really poorly, didn't wound him, but he put 2 wounds on me. So my general's sitting with 1 wound away from death. And I crumbled just a ton from that. I mean, all those White Lions have great weapons and are going first. So between crumble and all the wounds, I'm down with just 2 skeletons left, and I'm just in a ton of trouble. Over here, he crushes the Spirit Host. The general has a magic weapon. I'm not sure that would really matter too much, but he does that and reforms. So in Vampire turn 3, I charge my remaining ghouls into his princes. This is a picture after combat, but here's basically what happened. The Vargulf answered the call of the wild, saw his master was in trouble, and he slammed into the flank of the White Lions. The Terrorgeist tried as well, but he failed his charge, and he did not need much. I really wanted that to go off, but sadly he failed, so he's sitting over there picking his nose. I end up charging the Eagle with the Coven Throne, and it was angled such that I actually could have joined the combat here, and poofed him very easily, just immediately, and I was about 1 inch away from being able to join the combat. It was a really long overrun anyway, but that's where I ended up. So even though I'm not in combat, both of my vampires there are giving the -1 leadership. So that should help. You know, there's a -2 out there now to that group. In close combat, we're still in the challenge. I end up doing a wound and I ward save the 2 he throws at me, but my last 2 skeletons die. I end up winning the combat by 5, and his Dink Doink archers break, but no one can chase him because they're all locked up. And so while they run away, they're going to get a chance to rally, and I got a stick here. The Vargulf was great. He did a bunch of wounds, and the Thunderstop ended up really turning the tides for me. So that was great, but the White Lions did hold, even with the -2 debuff going. They do have a BSB, so they held. That was, I guess, expected. On the other side, I lose combat and crumble with the ghouls, but I do kill 1 Dragon Prince, so that's nice. On his turn, he rallies, and there's really no other movement. It's 9 dice to 7 in the magic phase. The Sorcerer's Portal puts Speed of Light on the Coven Throne, but it's not in combat. I dispel Vol's Unmaking on my general. He's still going after that ward save. Now he knows it's there, and that's the only thing stopping him from, wiping out my general and crumbling my army. He fails to cast Enfeebling Foe, and he ends up casting a juiced up version of Melkoth's on the Vargulf. He wants to just get rid of that flank beast, but I end up having to, I've got a Dispel Scroll, and I'm not going to be around that much longer, so I use it. It kind of feels like a waste, but you know what, it's gonna be worth it, I think. In shooting, sadly, the wounded Terrorgeist succumbs to the flaming shots from a couple of the archers who are far enough away. In close combat, the Dragon Prince is here. They win by 5. There's a few ghouls left, but I end up killing 1 more. And this picture is taken after my general dies. It's a chilling vision of things to come here. But when they die, I lose, I think, 5 or 6 to a really poor leadership test. So they're crumbled and gone. And here's the main combat I was talking about. This is right after. I fail my ward saves, and my general dies, which ends up crumbling 2 wounds on the Terrorgeist. The combat... Let me see how the combat goes. The Vargulf takes a wound in the combat, but I think I end up winning, and he holds. The Vargulf actually killed a ton. I think he killed 6 himself. He just whiffed his attacks, but ended up thunderstomping like a champ. I think his thunderstomps were like, in these last 2 rounds, 11. I love those guys. I need to use them more. And then he's able to reform, so he gets away from the Coven Throne a bit. The vampire's dead, and he's reformed to face the Vargulf now. This picture shows in turn 4 that I charge a Terrorgeist in. He ends up making it this time, and I cannot see in my front arc that combat with the Coven Throne, so I can't join in there. And I decided that it would be best to move the Coven Throne to the side to get the leadership debuffs anyway, to try to help out that combat, and then kind of come in as a unified line if I can on those archers. That's my plan. You know, I'm trying to do anything I can here. You can see the Necromancer's running like crazy because he's got those Dragon Princes looking at him. And so what I did was moved him up as much as I could to put a nice little area for me to run into with if I get Van Hells off. But as of right now, I've put the marsh between him and me. If I can get Van Hells off, I'll put the marsh and the river between us. So that's 2 times for dangerous terrain. I was going to move the Necromancer out on his own and use the skeletons as use the zombies as like a wall, but there's way too much shooting. He would just die immediately. I guess going back here, let me see where I am. Yeah, I guess I'm supposed to be here. In Magic, it's 3 dice to 4 this time. I'm behind. This is, I think, the second time I'm behind. The Anulian Crystal ends up taking more, taking 1 die from me and giving him more with channels and everything. So I'm at a severe disadvantage. You know, I forgot to mention a tactic a minute ago. I'm going to jump back here. At least this is worth mentioning. What I did here on my Magic phase, I think I skipped right by it. I threw all my dice, I was outnumbered here, I threw all my dice at Enfeebling Foe on this group. My plan was to cast Enfeebling Foe and use the, which I really didn't care about too much, it would have been nice, but I wanted to use the signature ability from that to change places with my Lord, who was in big trouble. I wanted to put the Lord on top of the Coven Throne and put the BSB there. The BSB actually had Beguile, so he might have been able to survive, but I had like 3 dice, and I threw them all at it, and he was able just to beat me. But I thought it was worth mentioning that was going to be a possible, really fun strategy. I don't think it's illegal. You should be able to do it because it's just a mountain rider. But if anyone knows if you can do that or you can't do that, let me know. Anyway, jumping back here. Okay, where were we? So yeah, I was behind in this Magic phase. I throw all 3 dice at the Strength debuff, just because it's like the only thing I can cast here that was gonna mean anything. And I roll 3 5s, and he still dispels it. He's still beating me in dice, and it's awful. So I'm getting a little whiny at this point in the game. However, it was pretty fun because the Terrorgeist got to go, and even wounded, he screamed, and I rolled really well, and he just liquefied 6 of the White Lions. It was just beautiful. In close combat, I end up killing his BSB and the last White Lion, but even with my Thunderstomps and everything, I can't hurt the Archmage. He's immune to non-magical attacks. So he ends up sticking around, believe it or not. Even with the leadership debuff, he got exactly what he needed, and stuck. So that pretty much sucks. The Dragon Princes fail a charge, and then this is obviously High Elf turn 4 here. But the Dragon Princes fail a charge and lose 2 to dangerous terrain. They had a nice open flank there. I thought those guys were just dead because I wasn't able to get Van Hells off and put any more distance. But no, he's stuck in the swamp. He could get pulled down here on the movement phase, and his general could just get sucked in, and that's the best thing that could happen for me. Granted, he needs to roll a 6 to fail his initiative test, but hey, it's better than nothing. He just moves his guys a little bit here for shooting. And sadly, in shooting, he puts 4 wounds on the Coven Throne and kills 6 zombies. So that Coven Throne's sitting on 1 wound, and it's in a world of hurt here. My guys are still locked up in combat here, and that's pretty much the end of the turn. I can't do anything to him, and he sticks around. So on Vampire turn 5, I tried charging the Coven Throne in up here. It isn't really doing much good sitting down there, and if I'm going to get those points back, I got to try. I charge, he does a stand and shoot, and ends up hitting with 9 of them, and it pretty much divides the wounds evenly, and he kills both the Coven Throne and the Vampire on top. And this is where I concede. We didn't even finish the turn. I didn't know if I broke that mage or not, but it wasn't going to make a difference. I had really just those two guys up here, and I think every time I was going to try to move or charge them, they were just going to get shot at and peppered. So I was getting a little sour at the way the game unfolded, but I also didn't think I had a way to pick up enough of the point, so I conceded right there. This is what it looked like at the end. You have to imagine the Common Throne's not there. His general did not get pulled down into the Mystery Swamp, unfortunately. That would have been kind of fun for me. But it was a pretty interesting game. We had just some crazy luck going both ways. Early on, his shooting was totally awful. But I just made a really big bonehead play, not really remembering just how brutal those high elves are in close combat. I always forget just how re-rolling everything and swinging great weapons, how dangerous that is. I saw that they weren't sword masters, and I guess I just kind of forgot that the White Lions had great weapons. So I think if I would have held back a little more and hit all at the same time is what my initial plan was, and not set up such a bonehead charge accepting, then I probably would have done a lot better. But who knows? It was pretty fun. I didn't get to use the Coven Throne really at all. It never saw combat except for the Eagle, and by the time it was going to really get to do anything, my leadership 10 was gone. I mean, a few times when it was getting shot at, the Battle of Wills came into play, but it wasn't anything spectacular, unfortunately. So that was the game. A pretty stunning win for the High Elves, and hope you enjoyed it.